Needless to say, the Washington Redskins had a disastrous 2013 season. RG3 came back and wasn't 100% healthy, frankly, was never healthy all season long from the looks of it. The team was just bad in all different areas. They started quitting on their coach and their team. It was just a disaster. The Redskins ended up going 3-13, and to make matters even worse, they sucked and got no payoff from it because they didn't have that number 2 overall pick because they had traded it to the Rams a couple of years before to move up to get RG3 in the draft. Oopsie daisies. And you have all the discussion about the name of the Washington Redskins, whether or not that name needs to be changed, and that's a discussion that's still going on. Again, not the best of seasons for the Redskins. The good thing for the Redskins is, though, is that last season is last season, and they really have nowhere to go but up, which I would anticipate them moving up some come 2014. And I think they had, for the most part, a good, solid offseason. Signing guys like Jason Hatcher and Andre Roberts and Tracy Porter. Those are good, solid signings, not world shattering signings by any stretch of the imagination. Keeping a Rakpo in the fold, franchising him for another year. Those are some good moves that this organization made. Obviously, once Deshaun Jackson became available, they added another nice weapon, element that they really lacked in their passing game. Now, another piece to help out their young franchise quarterback, RG3. That was a big move. Drafting guys like Trent Murphy to bring you more depth and more pass rush ability at the outside linebacker position in your 3-4 defense. Drafting Morgan Moses in round number 3. They made some nice moves this offseason. Really didn't have a lot of key or significant losses. Maybe London Fletcher due to retirement, but that might be more of a loss in the locker room than a loss on the field at this point in time. Looking ahead to this Redskins team in 2014, I see some nice strengths. I really like the offensive weapons they have in place. You're talking about a 1-2-3 at wide receiver of Deshaun Jackson, Pierre Garcon, and Andre Roberts. That's a pretty nice 1-2-3 combination. In particular, those two guys on the outside have the ability to make plays down the field, provide that vertical threat to take advantage of RG3's great deep ball. You got to like that. Looking ahead to this season, you also got to like the tight end Jordan Reed. I know I most certainly do. He fits that mold of the type of playmaking, versatile tight end, almost H-back that I think you need in today's NFL. And again, another young weapon for your young franchise quarterback. And then, of course, their solid star running back Alfred Morris. The offensive weaponry around RG3 is very nice. It looks like also you've got RG3 healthy. And, if he stays that way, it's definitely a strength of the team because the way that team is constructed, they need RG3 to make the type of plays that an RG3 can. And if he can, along with the weapons that they have there and an improved offensive line, this offense could look a whole lot better in 2014 than it did in 2013. I also like their linebacking core. I re-signed Perry Riley. You've got Kerrigan and Arakpo still in the fold. You bring in Trent Murphy. Yes, you lose London Fletcher, but again, I think this is a really good, solid linebacking core, which is critically important to have when you're running a 3-4 defense. But they still have some question marks out. First and foremost, obviously, is RG3's health. Some people point to, well, they're not that bad off with Kirk Cousins if he has to play, but at the end of the day, this team went 3-13 last year. This is RG3's team ultimately, and they need him to stay healthy. And that is a big question mark. If he can stay healthy, then that's great. And if he isn't healthy, watch out, could be another disastrous year. Even though I think the offensive line is improved, I'm not sure how great they are. I think there's going to be a lot of pressure on them to be able to provide better, more consistent protection for their young franchise quarterback, RG3. That's a question mark. Are they going to be able to step up and do that? Is Spencer Long going to start at some point in time this year? How is Morgan Moses potentially going to play on the right side? Is Sean Laval going to come in and give them anything on the offensive line in the interior at guard? So that offensive line, even though I think it will be improved, is still a question mark. And then I wonder where the big defensive players are going to come from, because while this defense wasn't great, it also wasn't as bad as some people made it out to be. I think sometimes the problem was their inability to create turnovers, especially interceptions, and their inability to effectively rush the passer. I think they had like 36 sacks as a defense last year. They need to generate more pressure. They need to force offensive hands. They need to be able to create more big plays, something that they needed at times in 2013, something that they lacked. And it'll be interesting to see whether or not they're able to do so in 2014. Looking at their schedule, just like the Giants and the Cowboys, they've got the AFC South, the NFC West. They got some favors and benefits here from the schedule makers because the two conference games they have to play in the NFC are against Minnesota and Tampa Bay. So they're not having to play like New Orleans or Green Bay or somebody like that. So it's set up a little bit better for them this time around. You know, you look at their schedule, three of their last four games are at home. So if the Redskins are in contention, either in the division or more likely for the wild card, they have the chance to really make some hay late in the year with all of those games in December, three of the last four of them being at home, and those last three games all being divisional matchups. You know, you're looking at it heading into week 15. If the Redskins are sitting there at, let's say, 7-6 or 6-7, but they're able to handle their business and somehow beat all three of those divisional opponents, you know, they finish 9-7, 10-6, and that might be enough to make the playoffs. It may not be, but it'll definitely be close, and it'll definitely be a huge improvement over what they did in 2013. Ultimately, their keys to success: RG3's got to stay healthy. Deshaun Jackson's got to play big. You know, they need Pierre Garcon to stay healthy and play big. They need Jordan Reed to stay healthy and play big. They need improved play out of the offensive line. They need more big plays from their defensive unit. They need more consistent pass rush from their linebacking unit and from their defensive line. Ultimately, I look at this Redskins team and I say 2012 was a bit of a fluke, a bit of a magical finish season. 2013 wasn't fully reality either. That was on the flip side. That was a total and complete bubble burst disaster. I think this year things will level themselves out a little bit, and the Redskins will show a little bit more of what they actually are at this point in time, which is, I think, an okay but kind of mediocre team that isn't quite ready to play with the big boys in the NFC. I think they'll finish like 8-8, maybe 7-9, but I'll go with 8-8, and I think they'll be far back in second place in the NFC East.